morning or good afternoon, everyone. For today's webinar, I'm very pleased to welcome Laurent Igarza,
Hello Anne, hello everybody.
Product and Portfolio Manager for Surface Refinement in CATIA Design. Laurent will present what's new regarding ISM and reverse engineering, and this will be the second part of our webinar series on what's new in CATIA Design in the 3D Experience R2020X. As usual, you can ask questions by using the chat pane on your right, and all questions and answers with the webinar recording will be published in the CATIA user community. This is where you can watch previous webinars or ask new questions, and we will answer you. You can also write to katia.contact@3ds.com if you prefer an email response. I hand over to Laurent now and wish you a very interesting webinar.
Thank you Anne. We will start with ISM design experience and we will continue later on with the reverse engineering solution. Concerning ISM design experience, which was a new app we delivered in 19X release, we call it season 2 because we really base everything in this release against what customer required from us. We are certifying currently the solution with dedicated pilot customer, and you will see that there is a lot of new items that we have been delivering and working on this release. Concerning reverse engineering, the workflow has been accelerated and we will also demonstrate it. As you may know, ISM design experience is at the middle between ISM Surf, the legacy release which is an explicit modeler, which is a love mark from Dassault Systèmes, and CATIA ISM, on which we've been working from the last decade to empower surface refinement capabilities with ISM Surf mathematics within 3D experience. Today we'll be focusing on ISM design experience because you will see that we are really at the middle of this workflow, authorizing feature and total direct modeling like you are used to do in ISM Surf. ISM design experience is an app that you will retrieve in two roles, Class A modeler and transportation designer. And we've been paying attention, and we are still doing it, paying attention to the user experience. It means we've been really working on trying to accelerate the productivity, also bring you some innovation, that I will detail later on, and make sure that the framework of this app allow the best collaboration between senior and junior, and also suppliers and OEMs, for instance. Last message before seeing the app in action. It's very important to understand that this app is dedicated for both concept modelers and Class A experts. So we really want the application to allow you to do the two kind of jobs, which is concept or growing surface quality up to Class A. So concerning the user experience, we've been reworking the frame to allow you optimize the space and get the best 3D space possible. So quickly, just an overview of the app in action. So you can see here that we've been proposing to the user, of course, the same way to 3D navigate than we got in ISM Surf, where the rotation point is where the mouse is clicked. For CATIA users, it's also possible, of course, to stay with CATIA navigation, no problem on that. Okay, so here you have the app with the actual visualization you can have during modeling. We've been also proposing some accelerator for navigation, like the mouse menu you've seen here. If you're doing it slowly, you can see it. When you are an expert, you are used to it, you can go very quickly. And then furtively, you just activate it and change. We've got also this widget here on the top right, which is called the V navigation widget, on which with one click, you can go in any view you want. And you can also specify the preferred plan for modeling. You can also freeze the view here only in a screen rotation, but you can also freeze it fully just with one click on this disk here, and make sure you just pan. Okay. So this is very new tool. Okay. You have also classical parallel perspective switch, stretch view if you want to exaggerate some area to distinguish where you need to work on. Okay, and you've seen also we've been directly providing some tools from the CATIA live rendering application to allow you to tune better your view. You have access to some predefined HDRIs. For instance, here instead of using highlight analysis, we are using the ambience itself to do the job. And at any time, you can also, of course, remove the wireframe, go to wireframe mode, go to shading mode, material mode, etc. So you retrieve everything from CATIA Live Rendering natively in CATIA SM Design experience. Last but not least, you are also able to activate, if needed, the stellar visualization to get a realistic computation of the picture, which can also come in addition as a diagnosis tool or to even deliver some renders to your management, for instance. Speaking about users, we've been working on 3 users profile on this application. One is, of course, the CATIA legacy users. So some people are doing surface modeling in a very advanced way with CATIA. So those guys are usually able to work with both Bayesian NURBS. They are very used to the feature-based modeling and solver, parametric solver mindset, I would say, sorry. And they are even able to push it to template parts. So we've been trying to address those points already. Of course, we have been taking as a very first reference to code this app the ISM Surf user, which is using Bayesian mathematics, explicit geometry, and some solver with the matching constraint, and direct modeling. But we have been also working on a third user as a profile, which we call morphing, where you are only using NURBS, barely using control points, much more deformer capability, and mixing explicit and feature geometries. So we will see also that more in detail when we call about soft parametric later on. In the end, what we get for the application is it's important to understand we have been providing all capabilities in the same app for this release. So in terms of modeling approach, you will be able to use both curve-based or surface-based approach. In terms of mathematics and surface control, you will be able to use both Bézier and NURBS, depending on which you are familiar with. And this is partially still in evaluation, so I will detail that later on, but keep in mind it's in evaluation, so it will be only on a customer request. We will enable what we call soft parametric, which allows you to extend the application to a soft parametric mode that I will detail on, which goes from explicit to associative way of providing shapes. So seeing the application in action to create geometry. So here, what we are checking quickly the geometry. We're going to use what we call OmniSurf. So this is a feature allowing the creation of surfaces depending on what you select. So here I'm selecting 2 edges, and the feature understands that it's going to need to create a blend. So I have a blend surface, and I'm able, of course, to tune the continuities, and at the same time I can activate the control points and sculpt it. So I'm able to deform the surface with its control points, so with the various way UVN design space or XYZ design space robot. I can activate, of course, at the same time the highlight to tune what I'm doing with the control points. I'm going to create another blend behind, another blend in the front, just by selecting with a trace the 2 edges interpreted, and I've got a blend surface. So now if I select 4 edges in the back here or in the front, with the same command, I get a patch from patches, okay? So in the end, if I'm moving the master surface in the middle, of course, those 4 surfaces are going to follow up because they are features. Even if I touch the control points, I am keeping in mind the changes and the feature is updating. We are also providing some innovation for the daily tool. So of course, here we are able to create the traditional way a patch uh, quickly. We are using control points. You can see we can inject some law when we pull the control points, and we can also come back after the fact on his law to explore even new shapes that we did not see during the first move. We can separate U and V and tune them separately. So it can be very useful to search for a shape and keep nice network of control points, which of course preserves quality. We're creating here a second patch that we're going to match with the first one, G2. And we are, of course, able to use control points to deform them, but we are providing here a new way of deforming surface. So here you can see in action the global points. So it's 9 points on which you can pull and pull. Okay, you can see that, of course, I'm keeping the continuity as it should. We can use also gravel points, which are kind of control points onto the surface. And we are also providing this new capability, which we call torque handles, which is similar to what you can have in 2D softwares like PowerPoint or Illustrator, but for 3D. So we believe this will be very convenient especially for concept modelers when they are in shape research phase. Last but not least, if I do a selection of my control points, cross patches, you can see that I'm able to slide the control points, still keeping the continuity and keeping the integrity of my network. So this kind of little innovation improvement we provide. We believe that will save time, especially to converge to the expected shapes. In terms of new capability for 20X releases, you need to know that we have been delivering a lot of them already on FDs of the 19X release. So even in Q2 or Q3 of this year, we have released more than around 40 new highlights on the FD of 19X. And if we count the highlights of 20X, we are up to 450. And we already know, because they are already developed, but in a convergence phase, that we in FD02, FD03 timeframe, we will go up to 650 new items. So we are really delivering to make sure we ramp the scope and the completeness scope up for this year. Quickly an overview, I won't go into detail, but this is what we have been delivered in FD01, for instance, that you will of course retrieve also in 20X release. Same in FD02. Most of those highlights are improving the selections and improving the Omni Surf and Omni Curve capabilities. And in 20X, there are many new highlights so I'm not able to detail all of them here. I have listed them here for you. They are still being developed, they are still converging, and we will be delivering them all along the 20X year. The objective, to be transparent with you, is to have a mature application at the end of the year 2020, certified by some early customers, so that you will be able to use it as is. So now I've been showing quickly that we can mix modeling approach. We have math control and even some innovation tools in sculpting. But I'm going to detail the soft parametric aspect, which is totally new, and you will not find this anywhere else, actually. So to make sure we cover the 3 user profile in this application, we've been checking how the people work when with history of construction when they work in a high surface application. Depending on the legacy background you have, whether you were using ISMSurf, CATIA, or other software doing morphing, you don't have the same approach for updating your geometry. So what we've been providing now is a kind of full control for the user. As a user in ISM design experience, you decide how the update will behave. So you decide how and when. It means several things. We've been delivering 6 different modes. The 3 you have on the left here, they never modify the geometry when you push the update button. So if you want to keep full control at any time, you use the left side of this slide. Why? Because of course you are able to work with datum, like you are using when you are using ISM Surf, you are doing explicit modeling, so you will be exactly in the same situation. Anything you create with datum is dead. It does not remember where it comes from, so it's a free surface to be deformed by any tool. A more interesting situation is inactive. Inactive is exactly the same behavior than datum, except that you remember the feature. So if I am creating a fillet, for instance, I'm creating the fillet. If I change its input, if I modify it, and if I press update, the fillet won't change. It will only change when you edit it, because it will remember it's a fillet. So it's very interesting especially for people that are not familiar yet with parametric. People coming from ISM Surf, you will be able to use this mode and work as usual, except that you remember the features. So if you give your data to another CAD modeler, it will be able to understand that here you've been using a blend, here a fillet, and so ever. A third mode for this kind of user will be alert. Alert is very simple. It's the same mode than inactive, except that you have some diagnosis on top that will just tell you, hey, here you've been breaking the continuity, here you have not, you have made me broke my link with my parent features, etc. So it's just adding diagnosis to help you know that you have an action to perform later on because something is wrong with or inconsistent with the modification you've been performing. So again, those three modes are delivered to people not used with soft parametric and that want to go carefully in this world. For people more familiar or people from ISM Surf that will get familiar with the parametric world, you have another mode which is adaptive. So on the right side here, all the mode I am describing will potentially move or doing some computation on the geometry when I press the update button. This is the difference. So adaptive means if I am doing a fillet again, for instance, if I move the fillet input surface, when I press update, the fillet will not recompute as a fillet, but it will just deform to adjust to his parent change. So this is kind of automatic deformation depending on the condition of the feature, are they respected or not. So adaptive is very interesting for concept modeler when you have a big style change, for instance, you have a shape research moment to do. Adaptive is the mode you will use. Rebuild is the mode you know from CATIA. It means even if you have been deforming your fillet or your blend surface, if you press update and if the condition of this feature are inconsistent, so whether the continuity is broken or the parent has been modified, the rebuild is recomputing the feature. So it means you forget what direct modeling action has been performed and the feature is updated. So this is very similar to what you know in CATIA ISM today. And reshape is the last mode. So reshape means you have everything. So I do a fillet, I sculpt the fillet, I tune the highlight myself, then the radius of the fillet needs to change or the surface is moving. If I press update, I recompute the fillet and I keep all the modification I have been performing on top. So again, when you are familiar with this what we call soft parametric, reshape is the mode to go, I would say by default, when you are able to do it. Last but not least, there is a kind of hidden mode we provide also, which is here for reversing everything you've done. So when people use revert, you are back to the feature. So it means even if you're doing some sculpting, pushing revert will come back to the original surface and you can restart to work it. Important to notice, everything I've described on this slide works also on legacy features from CATIA Generative Shape Design or CATIA ISAPE Shape Design. So if you have existing model in CATIA right now, this applies even on the legacy features that are already features you know from CATIA. Of course, any surface coming from other softwares which are datum when you get them can also have those kind of modes if you rework them. So now let's see that in action. So here we have a first use case on a bumper. here we're going to start by creating what we call the fictive edge, which is in fact, which could be also named character line or theoretical edge. This is a feature provided also in reverse engineering that here we are using as a reference, an extension of the reference from the clay model. And we are relying on this fictive edge to do our Bezier curves here, the traditional way. So two curves, we are matching them G0, and we are doing a blend curve to get a first character line at a class A quality level. We are doing the second one here. So same, two Bezier curve plus one blend curve. And we are doing that everywhere, okay? So of course here, everything is associative, meaning if I change the fictive, my curve will update, and if I change the blend, the master curve, the blend curve will update. So here we've done many character line and some profile. You can see in light blue here. And we are creating some blend or swept surface between those character lines. So you can see they are at the beginning, by default, of course, they are ruled surface. So we position the extremities here. And they are not yet at the right place against the clay model. So here, to adapt them to the clay model, you can see we can do two things at the same time. We can touch the input, the light blue curves, but we can also touch the control points themselves of the inside the surface. Okay, and everything is remembered. So if I move again the light blue surface, even if I have touched the control points within the sweep surface, everything is kept, and I keep my modification. So very quickly here, I am able to go near the clay sections and approach them correctly. And of course, I'm able to do that while having some diagnosis tools such distance analysis or highlight analysis you've just been seeing here. When we're finished with all the surface, you see here, for instance, we are tuning the tension of the blend here. Everything is updating. I can also change some, I would say, construction line. Okay, so here it's a character line I'm changing, but I can also change my construction line to increase manually the fillet, drive the fillets with some curves here. I have done myself. Okay, and at any time I can do undo, redo, and check the differences. I can also even use some ISD features like here, change them, and everything is updating. Traditional, soft parametric. Another example on interior design. So here, it's a bit more complex because we are working on the inner door panel. So in our door panel, we are going to rely, of course, on the seal line, which is the orange surface here. So you can see we can activate some volumes we've got from packaging, some also from some shapes from styling team, which are subdivision surface, the blue boomerang shape in the middle. And we can also, if you have some template sections, typical template, where as a picture, you can position within the model, directly within the model, the picture to, as an example, to rely on, okay, to do the shapes. So this is very easy. You can position the picture and use it as a reference to do your first flanges here. Okay, so again, I'm creating the transition surfaces. And all those are features. Okay, so here I'm doing my main flanges in yellow. Okay, and of course, all my future design will be able to be updated against this yellow shape. Here we create a NURBS so we rely from a pictures of the designer behind, and we are directly sculpting a NURBS to do the character line. After we are able to positioning in 3D with some snapping here, for instance, and we are using the law to make it correctly against the second character line. Okay, so here we've got some character lines that have been done against the sketch you get behind. If the sketch is wrongly positioned, for instance, or changed, we can change it live. And when my sketch is at the right place, I'm gonna use the robot to retune all the character line set that I've been creating already. So here I'm able to scale still with the robot to position them and scale all the curves at once. Okay, So here, readapting to the right size. So now I have my character lines in 3D. I'm going to create a swept surface on the top here. Okay. And I'm able to edit this surface and tune it. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm deforming it, tuning my highlights the way I want, okay, globally or locally, depending on the selection, the selected control points I'm doing. Okay, so here just on the left side. Now I'm happy with this first shape, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to materialize a section with a 3D curve onto the surface. And I like it so much that I'm editing the surface to re-inject this section within my surface. So I've been doing a section from the surface, and now I'm using the section as a new parent from the surface. Okay, and I'm going to be able now to tune the surface from the materialized section here, and of course the control points as I showed already before. And this is a feature. So I can at any time come back on it and update it, even against my character line if they change. Okay. Pulling, and I can really, so I'm able to activate warp Mars, okay, and then I'm going to be able to really fine tune it very precisely up to the level of highlights I'm expecting. Okay. So after a few hours, you will get the different surface from your door panel that you can still present with the shape from designer here and even the technical parts. Okay, you are on 3D experience, you have access to the single source of truth, so you are able to bring back in session every useful element for your design review. You also have some tools here to filter quickly the visualization to at a context which is required for the review. Last demo I wanted to show you is, like I just mentioned, you are on the 3D experience, so you benefit natively from the 3D experience unified modeling, meaning you are able to be precise, you are fully flexible with the tools you are choosing, and you've got the power of the full surface tools of CATIA on 3D experience. So it means here you will retrieve the context of the previous demo. I'm doing a character line, but what I'm able to do, even as a Class A modeler, actually, I'm able to link my Class A character line, so good quality curves. I'm going to link this with the designer shape. So here we have a NURBS in pink. We have a NURBS that we are using as a character line, but I'm able in Imagine and Shape, for instance, to link the base mesh of the subdivision with my curve, and this way I will be able to come back to the concept modeler or styling people even, and by this slight change here, influence the subdivision shape and do some proposal. So maybe we can be both at the same time in front of the styling department and iterate together the shape to save time in the negotiation or the compromise of the shape expected. So at a glance, what I would sum up for ICM Design Experience on 3D Experience R2020X release is, keep in mind it is for both Class A and concept modelers. We want them to use the same tool in their different way. We've been providing a dedicated user experience, which is the first stage, and we will continue in the coming months and years to improve it, to make sure you have a super experience for sculpting, for display, and also to mix that with the parametric. So this is very important. These are the key values for the user experience on this release. We are featuring only in only limited availability the soft parametric, because we really want to work with customers to learn from them and find the best methodology to be fully ready for the end of next year. When we present you the new release, you have a mature solution ready to use. And last but not least, you are benefiting from the 3D Experience platform with unified modeling paradigm. So it means you will be also, of course, able to mix all techno from CATIA within ICM Design Experience, subdivision, NURBS, Bezier, curves, surface. Now let's switch to the reverse engineering new capability. So as mentioned earlier, we are really working to improve the workflow and accelerating the workflow. We really want for reverse engineering to make sure we automate as much as possible the mesh to surface process, and we really want the user to keep under control the design at any time, including the quality of what is performing. So what we, just as a reminder, what we've been delivering in the previous release for this workflow is first, of course, in 17x, we've been delivering some mesh and repair tools, because to do quality, at least you must be secure. You must secure that the scan is correct for the work. We've been doing a new segmentation zoning map in 18x release, contrast map on 19x release, fictive edge, and subsurface network new capability. That was for the previous release. If we go on 20x release, at a glance, we've been also improving again the mesh preparation. We will see that we have been providing a better import capability to allow large cloud to be imported. And we've been improving the workflow for reconstruction, again, to save productivity. Last but not least, it is to be noticed that engineering IP control app have been also greatly improved on this release, and I will demonstrate that at the very end. So concerning digitype shape preparation application, the mesh preparation tool has been enriched again with more checks and repair capability. So basically now, to summarize, you can do some external envelope repair. So it means if you have a scan like the one on the picture here, you are able to tackle everything which is wrong to get a manifold scan in the end. So this is a very important aspect that again improves the mesh and repair services, whether it is for reconstruction, but also for 3D printing or even simulation intermediate steps. In digital shape to surface, in digital shape to surface application, we are, as mentioned, improving the scalability of the import command. I did not mention it, but it is also, of course, available in the digital shape preparation surface application. You are able now to import much more bigger tool, much more bigger cloud, billions of points. So mostly this is for construction or industrial equipment industries. If you have, for instance, a full factory that you want to rebuild into CATIA because you lost the plan and so you get only a scan as an input, this is now much more easier because it is very improved and so faster to import this kind of cloud. To go with that, we are also working on the automatic 3D primitive recognition workflow. So the user interface has been a bit improved. For now, on 20x, you can see that mostly on the planes. So it's going to be very quick to reconstruct planar surfaces. And coming next, the UI will be improved also for cylinders, torus, and other, I would say, canonical or so-so shapes. So the goal is again for prismatic, I would say, geometry to allow you to really speed up the work with big cloud and obvious shapes. Concerning the curve network preparation capability, there are a lot of improvement on 20x, again, to secure that we accelerate the workflow. So we have been, the fictive edge, which was a separated command on 19x, is still provided as a separated command, but is also integrated in curve network preparation. So with only one command, you can do the full job actually now. The workflow has been adapted to be consistent with different kind of curves you are using. And very important, we are providing for most of the curves the capability to extrapolate them and also extrapolate them up to. So this is the kind of picture you see on the right here. If you do a fillet ribbon, for instance, you are able to relimit it in one click up to the next fillet. You don't have to do curves by yourself or trimming. So this is very efficient, and we are saving a lot of productivity. So, for instance, what does it give on these basic shapes you've seen earlier in the ISM Design Experience demo? We are creating the free edges. We are creating the fillet ribbon with the fillet ribbon of curve network preparation. We are creating some connect curve here in light blue. And then you can see only in one click for each of them, of course, I'm able to do up to, okay? See the difference between the two pictures. You are adding some additional curves for patching your surfaces. Curve network, surface network, traditional workflow, you know already. So let's see that in action. So for instance, here I have some curves already done on my scan. What I'm able to do is, for instance, here I'm gonna use the extrapolation of this extremity of the fictive edge to tune the connect curve directly. Of course, as everything is featured, the curves are linked together. So we've got history of construction, and you can here I'm using the master curve to tune the transition curve. And the up to capability is also, of course, working to secure the symmetry. So I'm against the symmetry plan. I can go relimit my curve to the symmetry plan. The same here with this ribbon fillet. I'm using the plane. Okay. So very quickly, I can really shot all my fillet ribbon, my character line, my main line, and quickly relimit them to connect all curves together and get quickly my network. It's much quicker than what we had in 19X actually. For instance, here I did my fictive edge directly with one up to command, and here also I'm stopping my fillet to the transition shape. Okay. So we save a lot of productivity here. I will show figures. On a detailed case, let's see why is up to very productive. It's because when you have a convergence of character lines, like here, for instance, so here I'm using one as a master curve. I extrapolate it. And I'm able very quickly to make the three others converge at the same point. So here I'm using the longer one on the top to land here. And here now, directly I have a materialized fictive vertex. So I can use it to extend the two others curves, the little one here and the last one. Okay. So here you can see that really very quickly I can make those four curves join together at a consistent point, which also keep the quality of the four curves together, which is usually the area where you iterate a lot if you want to make sure your later surfaces have good quality at this area. Curve network command itself has been improved. So now we are delivering a new workflow, a new user interface to make sure you tackle all the problems before generate it actually. Okay, so again, very quick. I'm doing my shape, I'm doing my color map. I check my contrast map. I'm doing my sharp edge design, so mostly character line here and free edges. And when I'm doing the curve network from this set of curves, you can see now that we have 4 tabs. So the first one is of course for selection of the elements, the mesh and the curves, and the tolerance you want to use. If you do apply, you have a first check. It's showing you all the node, and everything in green basically means I have no problem, I can compute it. If you go to the freeze tab, here you have indicated a tolerance, so it means the curve network has the freedom to deform shapes to make sure it's closing all the curves. If you want some curves to not move, you are able to of course freeze some of them. So the system itself is using a default order for freezing. But if you really want to make sure a curve does not move at all, you are able as a user also to indicate it, like here. Okay, so this is a dotted line. I say, okay, this line here, I don't want them to move. They are frozen. You have an Analyze tab, which allows you to see if some nodes still have a gap or things like this. Okay, you can also display the spikes, etc. And if you go in the Constraint tab, well, here you have some more capability for tolerance. Tolerance is repeated here. And also what is shown especially here is merge consecutive curves. So it means if you have cells that are not useful or a node only between two curves, If the continuity is correct, we are within the tangency tolerance, for instance, we tackle it. So exactly like what happens in the curve smooth of GSD for the people who are familiar with this tool. So it's simplifying even better your curves than before. Now you create your curve network, surface network, analysis, and you can see here I'm pretty correct, under 0.3 millimeter as an average. Some KPIs with the new capability of 20X, which are, by the way, also delivered in 19X FD05 for most of them. So maybe you saw them on the cloud quickly before migrating to 20X release. What we did with some customer is take a full half car and did the whole exercise. So here you get duration. It means in FD01 on the 19X, we were using the tool for 8 hours to do the full workflow. And for that, we had also to decimate the mesh. So it means the mesh was only 800K triangles to make sure we are an efficient user interface performance. On 20X now, we are, thanks especially to the ameliorations in the curve network preparation, all the improvement from these functions, we are able to decrease to 6 hours and 40 minutes. But this time we did not decimate the scan, so it means we have also improved the performance scalability of the app itself, independently from the productivity. So in terms of figure, it means we have 15% productivity gain for 20X on the workflow and five times better performance scalability. So last but not least, as I was mentioning in the introduction of reverse engineering new capability, we've done a major improvement in product filtering. So engineering IP control application is the app you will use if you want to kill some intellectual property to share data with people that don't need to have the whole truth or the whole knowledge of your data. And here now we've been introducing a visualization filter for this capability. So it means that on the left here, for instance, I have a camera with some internal mechanism, and I just want to give maybe to a designer or to marketing team or for 3D printing or for simulation people, I just want to give the external skin of the product. So here I'm able with the dialog to say I want to visually filter. So basically the application will just look around the product and just remember the geometry of the outside, the visible geometry. What is important to notice is that it goes up to the geometry granularity. So it's not keeping only the part or only the feature, it's even filtering up to the face granularity. So it means if you look at the two pictures below here, I'm really stopping the filtering at the fillet joining together. So let's see that in a movie. So here I'm using, you see that with sectioning, my assembly is a real assembly. I have lenses, I have some mechanism, I've got some solids. Okay. And I don't want to share that with, I don't know, my supplier. So I'm going to go in product filtering and merge, because if I want, I can also merge all the geometry in one part, which is what I want to do here. So I will ask for a 3D part. I will ask to keep some colors and material colors. And then I'm asking with a very high accuracy here, so I need a lot of cameras because I have a lot of details. I'm pushing the OK button on the top, and I will retrieve only the external skin of this full assembly here. Okay, so this is a real-time movie. And now if I'm looking at the sectioning, so here you see I am in generative shape design, so it's in one part. And the application has kept only the visible surfaces. Okay, so you can see you retrieve in the spectri as datum only the needed geometry. Okay, and with the naming in the tree, you can still retrieve where they come from in the assembly, but I mean in terms of geometry, you don't have any intelligence here, it's just datum. So this is very, very interesting for people of simulation that want to clean unwanted part of the product they want to simulate or mesh. and also for people doing 3D printing to get only external skin. Thank you. That was it for SM Design Experience capability and reverse engineering on the 20X release. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Laurent, for this very
You're welcome.
precise presentation. And thank you all for attending, and especially those who have asked questions. Again, if you didn't have the time to ask your question, you can still ask it in the CATIA user community. You will see the link in a few seconds. And that's where you can find previous webinars or answers and ask new questions. We'll talk to you at the next webinar, and bye for now.
Bye.